Welcome back to the Rhode Show. This morning in the buzz, the big news from the morning from campaign 2010 is the race for Rhode Island governor, because it's the first time it's been won by an independent candidate. I think since 1940. No, that was the other statistic. I'm trying to think.
No, it's
is this the first time ever?
Yeah.
The first time ever we've elected an independent candidate, and of course that is Lincoln Chafee. He's been elected to succeed Governor Xon Kachiri, and we were there as he claimed his victory. Take a look at what happened.
So yes, this election was about the honesty to say how we are going to pay for a civil society and a public education system. I'm very grateful to all the Rhode Island people. You've given me your vote, and I give you my word.
Now, Chafee had 36% of the vote compared to Robitaille's 34%, so it was a very narrow victory there. Democrat Frank Caprio finished a distant third with 23%, which was really interesting because he was the front runner for a long time. He was leading, and actually, you know, if you talk to Joe Fleming will tell you that it wasn't necessarily because of his shove-it comments to President Obama that he was starting to trail even before that. And
that's an easy way out. That's what I've read. A few people are saying that was the reason, but I think that's just an easy way out.
Yeah, you know, the fourth candidate in this race was moderate party candidate Ken Block, and he had 6%. But now comes the hard part. You know, don't you feel like, you know, you're racing, you're making these promises, and now you have to go and try to make changes, which is traditionally very difficult.
One thing I do like about Chafee is, you know, I like someone that's going in with all that optimism, because so many times it's so easy to just put down the state of Rhode Island and we're this corrupt state and there's never any changes. And how many times do you talk to people on the street and they say, it's just the same old thing? You know, it's almost like the cliche thing to say is just you know, well, it's Rhode Island. But I like somebody going in with this much optimism. I mean, he's we're the fifth highest unemployment rate in the nation, which is just ridiculous. So he's got a lot on his plate, but you know, you hear about these athletes that will themselves to victory. I think somebody that's this optimistic can, you know, maybe that'll help. Maybe he can make a couple changes.
He certainly has a lot of challenges ahead of him in this state, but one in particular is just what you're mentioning. I think he's going to have a really tough time trying to figure out what is the exact combination. How do we bring in businesses without hurting our tax base? How do we cultivate jobs and not have the brain drain that sometimes goes on, where people are going to Boston or to Connecticut or something like that for jobs after college.
A lot of stuff on his plate, like aid to cities and towns. Has been cut. He wants to try and eliminate that, so the burden's not put on the taxpayers, raising property taxes. I will say this, that I think Chafee will have an easier time working with the state legislature, because he's an independent that's really used to be a Republican that's more towards a Democrat. Of course, we know the legislature's filled with Democrats, so that might help. I will say this. It's amazing how this political system works, that, you know, last night he gets elected governor, and this morning at 7:30 we hear that the EDC has closed this loan for Curt Schilling's 38 Studios, which is something Chafee was vehemently opposed of, and he wasn't even allowed to speak at the hearing last month or whatever it was, 6 weeks ago, to try and say, hey, this is not a good idea. They're like, no, you're not allowed. He wasn't even allowed in the room. So it's amazing how this works, that he's elected, 4 hours later the EDC closes the loan to Curt Schilling.
That was really interesting how that was timed. I think another thing that's really going to be interesting to see is, you know, not having to do with Lincoln Chafee, but one of the things that was approved was the money to fix the roads and the bridges, which are in such desperate need of repair. You know, we've talked about that in the buzz, how we compare with other states and that sort of thing. And another thing that I think people are going to be talking about this morning is the money going to Rocky Point. Now, some people are saying
10 mil or something like that.
It's around there. I think it's actually a little bit more, but in any case, you know, some people are saying, listen, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to preserve this land, and perhaps we can use it for tourism dollars. And other people are saying, listen, is this a good way to spend money when people need jobs? Should we be, you know, using the money for parks and to preserve this space?
In order for anything to get done in this state, the governor and the legislature have to get along. There has to be some sort of common ground, and it's always been, for a long time, a Republican governor and an overrun with Democrats.
It's been like two separate teams for so many years now, and it's good that they're on the same page.
I think you're right. I think, honestly, this might be a combination that works better than other combinations in the past. I don't think it would have worked with Frank Caprio. It certainly wouldn't have worked with John Robitaille. So maybe, you know, even if you didn't vote for him, this might be one of those, hey, give it a chance, because we might have some people thinking on the same team right now.
Well, you know, Mel, I want to throw it over to you because I think this is going to be the water cooler topic at most jobs today. What happened last night?
Oh, it absolutely is, and I have to agree with you, Patrick. You know, having our first independent governor, that's kind of exciting, and maybe this will be the combination that we need to send Rhode Island into the right direction. But I'm here in the New England Tech Center, live blogging on FoxProvidence.com, so let's see what some of our bloggers have to say this morning about today's buzz. Grillman says Chafee will be fixing the economy. Then after he does that, he will challenge Cicilline. And Joseph Butera says, I think getting out of the deficit without any cuts to human services will be Lincoln Chafee's biggest challenge as Rhode Island governor. And in case you're just joining us, I've posted today's buzz poll question on FoxProvidence.com. You'll find it right under the live blog on the right-hand side of the page. And today we're asking, what do you think will be Lincoln Chafee's biggest challenge as Rhode Island governor? Your choices are fixing the economy, working alongside the General Assembly, or living up to his father's legacy. And our friends on Facebook are always weighing in. Ashley says, getting out of debt and creating more jobs for this small state. He needs to do everything to prove himself and help out the little people. And Brian Birch writes, all he's going to do is further run the state into the ground. I might as well close my store now. I guess you didn't vote for him, Brian. And Joanne Marnell says, I like Chafee. Taxes are okay. If we all pay a little, we can all get a lot. Yes to education, yes to parks and rec. So a little bit of everything from our bloggers this morning. I guess they're, you know, liking Chafee, but, you know, also still concerned. And, you know, they should be concerned because there's a lot of work to be done. But don't go anywhere, because I'll be back at the end of the show with your web